Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again today, and welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2. We are playing the Skaven. We're back with our rat boys, getting ready for the DLC to come up, and this was kind of an interesting one. This wasn't... I'm shaking the rust off. I'm very, very rusty playing this game. You can see me swooping around, like getting used to the camera controls again. But I played this game the other day, and it ended up very interesting. Partially because my opponent brought kind of an unusual army list. So, I have got... let me actually bring all that back there. I've got a Plague Priest, a front line of Clan Rat Spears, and Skaven Slave Spears, because I'm playing against Bretonnia. So I thought, well, Bretonnia, Cavalry, I don't need fantastic infantry to beat their infantry anyway, so actually let's put this on pause, because I am shooting already. So, all Spears, 3 Slaves, I've got 3 Rat Ogres over here, once again to counteract the Cavalry play, and 2 Storm Vermin Halberds. Storm Vermin Halberds, I think, are actually pretty solid in this matchup, just because they're tanky. They can fight enemy cavalry, of course, pretty effectively. Not amazing, but they do have that 17 bonus versus large that kicks their melee attack up into the high 40s, which is good enough, and of course their majority armor-piercing damage. So against cavalry, Storm Vermin Halberds can do some work. Against infantry, they pretty much just die slowly, but dying slowly puts them one up over Bretonian infantry, which die quickly. I have a Ruin Seer on the Grey Bell. I lost my mind there for a second. A Grey Seer of Ruin on the Screaming Bell with all the goodies: Death Frenzy, Howling Warp Gale, Warp Lightning, plus the bound abilities. We left off the dreaded 13th spell and Crack's Call because they're both bad, unfortunately. And we have an Assassin with the usual kit, including Trophy Heads. My opponent, and we'll go back onto slow here, my opponent has brought 3 Blessed Field Trebuchets, probably in an effort to out-artillerize the rats, which is probably a mistake. I mean, a lot of factions can do it just because Warp Lightning Cannons are such big, easy targets, but Blessed Field Trebuchets are not very good at that kind of work. You can see here they're already starting to take Warp Lightning shots. He's got a big old front line of Spearmen-at-Arms, 4 right up here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Men-at-Arms with shields. Only 2 Peasant Bowmen. In Bretonia's place, I think I would have taken more Peasant Bowmen, but he's got 2 of them. He has the a Prophetess of Heavens on a horse with Arcane Conduit, Channeling Staff, Uranan's Thunderbolt, Wind Blast, and Harmonic Convergence, plus the Aura of the Lady, all very good stuff against the Skaven. And hidden in the forest, stacked on top of each other, he has 3, count them, 3 units of elite Grail Guardians. Very, very powerful heavy cavalry with physical resistance, perfect vigor, Blessing of the Lady, so the ward save, or the extra physical resistance, I guess, and the Lance formation. Actually, is that the source of all of their physical resistance? I think it must be. Yeah, I think that's all the physical resistance they get is just 20%. So, yeah, plus the lance formation. Okay, so, getting into it, the artillery starts shooting right away. You can see my first couple of volleys did almost nothing to this Blessed Field Trebuchet. A little bit of damage, but there will be more coming up. We're in kind of an odd formation here. We can see actually here, luckily, those shots actually do take out 2 of the Trebuchet models. So this Blessed Field Trebuchet gets absolutely wrecked just by random chance. The Bretonian infantry is moving down this direction, and I'm moving my Skaven infantry, my basic infantry, to match it, while my Rat Ogres peel back up this way, because I'm looking at this army going, I know they have some cavalry somewhere, and it must be hiding in the woods. That's the only place it could be. Unless they'd hidden some over here. But if they did, I would see it coming a long way away and be able to move to match. So, most of the Bretonian infantry is moving down this way, most of my infantry is moving down that way. I'm going to move my Plague Priest to meet them. Meanwhile, my Grey Seer of Ruin, my Rat Ogres, Warp Lightning Cannons, and Storm Vermin Halberds are moving up here. This Prophetess of Heavens came in to try and do something. I scared her off with the Rat Ogres and a cast of Trophy Heads, so she is running back to her army. And you can see here, I don't know why the camera dips down when I rotate like that. Whee! That's a little bit dizzying. The artillery is scoring some pretty good hits on my Warp Lightning Cannons and my Storm Vermin. Not a whole lot of damage yet, though. We have knocked out 2 of their 9 pieces, so we're winning the artillery battle so far. That will change, like right there. All of a sudden that changed. Infantry is squaring off. We're dropping a Warp Lightning on these Spearmen, who started to move, but not quite soon enough, so they did still take some damage. Warp Lightning is a bombardment spell done right. I've said this on the forums, and I hold to it. This is what bombardment spells should be. It's reactable, it has a long enough casting time that you can get out of the way, especially with fast units, but it does pretty solid damage if you don't, and it's cheap and consistent, so you can rack up a decent number of kills with it. Warp Lightning Cannon down to under half health, so at this point I'm sitting here going, man, I'm losing an artillery shootout to Bretonnia of all factions. This is just embarrassing. My infantry is now moving forward to engage the enemy infantry, because against men-at-arms, My Skaven Slaves and Clan Rat Spears I actually feel pretty confident about, and the archers are pulling off to go over in this direction. Meanwhile, the Bretonnian infantry is advancing to try and intercept my Storm Vermin halberds. My assassin, still over here, has now become visible, but at this point I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, Spearmen at Arms are one of those units that can't really fight Storm Vermin. So my Storm Vermin and my Grey Seer are going to go into this combat. My Grey Seer doesn't have a whole lot to worry about either because he has 100 armor, and Spearmen at Arms have only... I need you to stay on the side there. Ah, it's so annoying. Spearmen at Arms don't have hardly any armor piercing. They do have a pretty substantial bonus versus large, but it's just not enough to counteract their low AP. And, of course, every time he casts a spell, the Musk of Fear is hitting them. We get a nice Warp Lightning on this Blessed Field Trebuchet, take it out of the running, and here the Grail Guardians emerge. So upon seeing them, I go, oh crap, better move my Storm Vermin over a little bit, and we're going to feint with the Rat Ogres while we open up on the Cavalry with the Warp Lightning Cannons. This is what Warp Lightning Cannons are actually good at doing. It's the only thing they're really good at doing, is taking out enemy cavalry. So the infantry engagement over here is going on. Let's get my handy little highlighter tool. We just lost another Warp Lightning Cannon, so we're down to 4 pieces total, but that right there, that angled volley, fantastic. Killed almost half the unit with one shot. My Storm Vermin halberds have been caught by the Spearmen at Arms. It says they're losing decisively, which is weird. One unit of Grail Guardians pulled out for some reason. I don't know if they were trying to go around this way or what, but what that means is 2 of his units of Grail Guardians are left fighting my 3 Rat Ogres while getting hit by lightning bolts, which is a bad fight for them. You can see these Grail Guardians are both absolutely taking a ton of damage. Unfortunately, my Rat Ogres are now obstructing the Warp Lightning Cannon, so I can't get any shots there. These Grail Guardians, meanwhile, are piling back into the fight, get a nice charge. My Rat Ogres are now taking a whole bunch of damage between them and the archers, and then they swing through to attack the Warp Lightning Cannons. This is a really good move. At this point in the fight, though, I'm not certain that it matters so much. We've essentially eliminated 2 units of the Grail Guardians. One of them is wavering, about to break. One of them is just down to, you know, a third or a quarter health. And over here, this is the important bit, actually. Over here, my infantry is decisively winning their engagement. We're crumpling those men-at-arms. We have taken damage to our Skaven Slave Spears, but our Clan Rats have actually taken almost no damage, and we're about to trample over those men-at-arms as well, because the Plague Priest is here. And the Plague Priest, of course, is fantastic at fighting infantry between spells and the Chariot. That Plague Priest, by the by, don't know that I talked about his spells, he has Pestilent Breath and Vermintide. So the 2 cheap, efficient spells. Over on this side, meanwhile, the halberds are still holding up the spears just fine. These halberds have taken a little bit of a beating, but they, along with the assassin, are also holding up these spearmen at arms very well. More lightning dropping on this blob, blasting the Bretonnian cavalry as well as these Bretonnian men at arms. Some of my assassin is back here fighting with the Grail Guardians, as is my Grey Seer of Ruin, who does perfectly well against Grail Guardians because he's very armor-piercing. He's not exactly, you know, anti-large, but the Grail Guardians don't have great AP, and so they can't kill him very effectively. Some of my Rat Ogres are starting to rout off. They'll come back. And I pulled one of my artillery crews away to run down this way behind the Rat Ogres to try and preserve it, while the other one is being chased off and murdered by the Grail Guardians. But that's fine, because effectively what I've done here is I've traded, you know, about 2 Rat Ogres overall for 2 Grail Guardians, which is very much a trade in my favor. Tried to get some Warp Lightning on those Peasant Bowmen, didn't actually do a whole lot of damage, and at this point, the cavalry's in kind of a pickle. Like, this cavalry is still intact, but this one is almost destroyed. The infantry is collapsing over on this side, so these units are starting to swing around to get into the enemy artillery and archers. There's not a ton of the Bretonnian army left, while I still have 2 half units of Storm Vermin halberds, and so at this point, my opponent actually leaves the game. I think he was basically just realizing that even if he were to beat this detachment of my army, which he might, he wouldn't really have enough, he wouldn't have the time to kill my lord. And if it looked like I was really losing over here, my Grey Seer could just kind of run around this way. And even if he did beat everything else over here, his cavalry detachment was already pretty much destroyed, and that was a big investment. And his archers and artillery, without the support of that cavalry, would not have enough to stop all of this infantry, which was starting to wrap his flank. And with the support of the Plague Priest especially, he didn't have anything in place to prevent those units from just drowning what he had left. I'd inflicted too many casualties on my left, his right, and he hadn't done enough damage in return. So, very good game. Thanks to Scramble Egg Special for playing. If you can see here, the men-at-arms with shields actually gave pretty decent account of themselves. They were just overpowered. I mean, it was 6 units versus, I think, 6, no, 5. It was 6 units versus 5, for one thing. And for another thing, I have my Plague Priest there, and the Plague Priest is very scary and very effective against infantry. So once he punched through the center, the whole thing was just going. My Rat Ogres got very few kills, but the kills that they got were very high quality because they were fighting Grail Guardians, which are, of course, a much more expensive and usually much more powerful unit. But with the 3 Rat Ogres plus the support fire from the Warp Lightning Cannons, and I think 1 cast of the Skaven buff spell, whose name I cannot recall, Death Frenzy. 1 cast of Death Frenzy from the Glaciers on, I think, this unit. They managed to punch out a whole bunch of those cavalry. These 3 cavalry units only represent 135 models between them. So if we look here and see that the Rat Ogres killed, you know, more than 50 models, they account for well over half HP on all 3 of these units, or about half HP on all 3 of these units all told. Combined with that 1 devastating volley from the Warp Lightning Cannons, and those Grail Guardians were not in a good place, especially when you look at how much health I had left on all of my spears and halberds. I think he probably made the right call. I don't think he was going to have quite enough left to deal with what was left of my army, especially considering that all of my heroes were still in very good health. So, thanks so much again for the game. Thank you all so much for watching. There's going to be a couple more of these. I'm probably just going to pop these videos in as like little bonus videos on days when I'm also uploading something else. They're quick to record, and they're fun, and they'll kind of chart a little bit of my progress getting back into the game. There's going to be one today. Today is Sunday, and probably one Monday and Tuesday as well, and then Wednesday, since Wednesday happens to be my day off from work, I'm actually going to stream some Total War Warhammer 2 when the DLC drops, and that should be all kinds of fun. So, thanks once again. I'll see y'all next time.